Welcome back, everyone, to another glorious Kaiserreich left KMT episode. And today we're gonna look at some factionalism within the Whampoa Military Academy, who I digressed very heavily upon to sort of build up the foundation. Last week, we were looking at the fact that Chiang Kai-shek used his position as the leader of the Whampoa Military Academy to do very interesting things, and eventually become the military dictator of China, because yeah, in China, the whole student-teacher dynamic is weird due to Confucianism being a weird ideology. Anyway, as the titular headmaster and war minister of the Kuomintang, Li Jishen has transformed and prepared the NRA for its liberation of China's East. However, his responsibilities have since grown tremendously, and he has indicated his desire to delegate responsibility for the restored academy to someone else. Meanwhile, with the NRA swelling in ranks, staff officers who served with distinction during the League War have been promoted to fill newly opened positions, most notably Huang Qixiang, Zheng Fakui, and Xiao Jingguang. Despite the plethora of new openings, competition has nonetheless been fierce, especially with the growing academy in regards to Li's successor. Members of the NRA's old guard, including longtime guerrilla officers, have coalesced around the Whampoa Military Academy Revolutionary Classmates Association. I see that we have some definitely Chinese Civil War, but really more, you know, really more like later World War II, and especially Cultural Revolution affinity for ridiculously long names going on in this Kaiserreich lore, which I'm all for, to be honest. Like, this kind of reads like something that would be, you know, yeah, again, from the Cultural Revolution, which I can definitely agree with in terms of the immersion. Their leader is Deng Yangda, Whampoa's former head as the political department and co-leader of the Provisional Action Committee. They are opposed by the young guard of the army, consisting primarily of those trained abroad in the Whampoa in exile, seeking to transform the NRA into a truly party-subordinate armed force while relying on Western-style tactics and technology. Very interesting, because like in here it's like, yeah, I do want to go for the RCA for sure, but like it does really seem like the young guards definitely have the policies that I would want the most in my revolutionary army, to be completely honest. So let's not make a decision right away, even though we really do need to make a decision as quickly as possible. And in the meantime, just restore stuff. Are we building a railroad that's supposed to connect Nanjing? I would hope so. I wonder, could we... What would happen? Let's try to still... Okay. But also with the Mingan insurgency, it's kind of cool, because you get guerrilla-focused national spirits. Let's slow down and read them. Mass assault doctrine. Oh, mass assault doctrine. I don't like mass assault doctrine. Free legions of irregulars. The People's War. The Masters of the Land. That is really strong. Infantry, hills, and mountain bonuses. I mean, it really does seem like looking to the west is far better. Having Dai Chung Feng in our government will modify this effect. Really now. Well, let us look to the west. But I still want to try to get the PAC to be leading the country. Would that even be possible? Because here I'm guessing we're gonna have a lot of reorganized comrades association. So yeah, we're gonna see. Yeah, we're gonna get a lot of reorganized comrades association balance of power. What's gonna happen? What's Kaiserreich? Let's try to sort of prod Kaiserreich and see what happens when we try to make the PAC win, but have the RCA dominate the army. Is there gonna be a coup? Yeah, let's click all the buttons. Oh, the Xinjiang click erupts in war. Really now? Who would have guessed that the Xinjiang click erupts in war? Anyway, the Korean National Revolutionary Party. Yeah, the Korean KMT, which was a real thing, by the way. Just like the VDNQDB, I think. Or DVNQDQ. There's a really bloody complicated... Oh, the center cannot hold. Is this about the Chinese syndicalists? Yeah, it's about the Chinese syndicalists. I think we want the Orthodox to be strong when it comes to the syndicalists, because the path that I think would be most interesting to take is one where I guess we're not producing enough guns. Yeah, I mean, we're also using them from training, so yeah, that's what it is. Anyway, having Song Qingling be in charge and also having the Chinese syndicalists be very strong, but with the Orthodox faction, where you basically go and you're a syndicalist Song Qingling that's trying to basically do, you know, literally hammer and sickle, you know, the unity of the workers and peasants, as it may, you know, the proletariat and the peasantry. So yeah, we're gonna see. All right, now we're gonna have supplies. We do have a level 1 railroad. Oh, I guess one of our civilian factories got blown up in Jinan by the dastardly Qing. The liberals! Yes. Only 1% social liberalism. Yes, yes, yes. All right. There we go. Let us move our real divisions down to the border and make sure that they are ready to fight, although I'm sure that we're going to have some supply issues going down to the south. Let us actually build a railroad all the way to the front, because we want to connect with this other railroad for sure. Yeah, we want to connect with this other railroad. Yeah, here we're actually getting supply though, which is rather funny. Are you guys getting plan preparation bonus? You are getting plan preparation bonus. And once we finish looking to the west, we can go down to restoring the political department and dealing with the warlords. Which is going to allow us to come down and annex the south. Oh! Well, we're back to Jupeda. I guess there's no more Judah. Huh. Back to the National Revolutionary Army, but paternal autocrat? Really interesting state of affairs for sure. How's the integration proceeding? So we're at 38%. I believe once it goes to 50%, we're going to core states. That's how the coring mechanic works, I believe, which would be rather good. Oh, we have some American happenings. I believe we're going to get the ability to send support to the combined syndicates as well, but we're going to need like a lot of guns for that, right? So I would certainly hope for the gun production to increase itself. Oh, we have 47. I believe we want to... We want to give these things to the infantry units so that they're going to become much, much stronger with the support companies. We just barely had enough support equipment. Well, looks like I got a bit of a lucky hot boy syndrome over here in knowing exactly how much support equipment we need. Although actually we maybe still need... Maybe we still need some support equipment? No? Oh, it's the artillery. That's the issue. Ooh. Ooh. Yeah, we really need to get ourselves another military factory somehow. We really, really do need to get ourselves another military factory because we need to start... Oh, the Showa restoration. Oh. I guess they're the national populace now. Yeah, do we want to talk about the Showa restoration? Do we have the time in between all the China things? Do we have the time to talk about some Japan stuff? Well, I mean, yeah, perhaps, I guess. I mean, as you may know, in the 1920s, Japan, which had gone through the Meiji restoration in the 1860s, and then had gone a long period of sort of building up a modern sort of industrial state and military all the way to the 1890s, which is when it really started to flex its muscle. It had tried before without that much success, actually, which is not something that too many people talk about. We should, I don't know, would you disgusting people like to hear a little about the rise of the Japanese Empire? We don't have time right now, so light tank models and mechanized models. Ooh, definitely would be interesting to do some mechanized stuff. Our Shanghai connections. No, we want to restore the political department. So the triumph of the Young Guard. Several leading officers from Europe have been promoted as well, including Nie Zhongzhen, who was one of the 10 marshals. Was it 10 or was it 8? I think it was 10. It might... I need to look it up. Hold on. My senility is getting to me. Was it the 10 Great Marshals? I think it was the 10 Great Marshals, and not the 8 Great Marshals. I think it was the 8 Immortals. It's just a term in PRC political history. 10 Great Marshals. China. 10 Great Marshals of the PLA, yeah. Yeah, I mean, you can also hear the term 9 Marshals. Why? Because one of the 10 Great Marshals was Lin Biao, who later fell into disgrace for interesting reasons. So yeah, I guess I was right. It was 10 Marshals. Phew. I'm not entirely senile. I'm not Joe Biden. And I'm not Joe Biden yet, boys. I've still got... I could put another division there. So actually, let's get these other divisions down to the south. So yeah, the 10 Great Marshals is a term pertaining to the CCP in the Chinese Civil War, and also in the Cold War. So like the early years of the PRC. Their you know, the Chinese Red Army, later, you know, PLA, had its, you know, sort of 10 greatest commanders, and Nie Zhongzhen was one of them. In fact, I believe one of the longest lived ones, right? Like, am I mistaken in thinking that he was one of the last to die? He died in 1992, and I believe he was also... Oh yeah, he was the last one. He was the last one to die. Whew. I'm surprised by all this information that I'm actually remembering somehow. But yeah, the 10 great marshals of the PRC were Jude, who we saw down here in the Yunnan clique, and was really instrumental in really building up the PLA in the Jiangxi Soviet and later Shanxi, you know, Yan'an period of the PLA, the sort of great guerrilla force that terrorized the KMT and later the Japanese, and, you know, went on to transition to conventional warfare and sort of smash the KMT in the Second Chinese Civil War. But the transition was really more... in the transition, the focus shifts from Jude, who was an amazing... Like, all of these 10 marshals, in terms of, like, actual military history, they're like incredibly good as commanders. Like, really, really high-tier people who, like... Yeah, without them, definitely the CCP would have been screwed. Like, it's ridiculous just how many good commanders they had. But, like, just the focus shifts from Jude to more Lin Biao and Ye Jianying, who are, like, the geniuses behind the, you know, transition into the conventional warfare. But then you have also Peng Dehuai, who was instrumental in the Korean War and who basically fought the American army, you know, the best army in the world probably at the time, very closely tied with the Soviet army, but definitely the, you know, best equipped and most, you know, most technologically advanced, you know, American Army and Air Force with just the PLA with, you know, bolt-action rifles and some, you know, some Soviet technical assistance. Fought them to a standstill at the 38th parallel. Well, actually a little bit south of the 38th parallel, and captured Seoul twice. That's Peng Dehuai. So again, like, really ridiculously, like, military geniuses, basically. Yeah, I mean... You can say that without loving without loving the PRC, even its early version, too much. But yeah, definitely that's, you know, Jude, Nie Zhongzhen, as we said, Peng Dehuai, Lin Biao, Liu Bocheng, He Long, Chen Yi, Luo Zhonghuan, and Xu Xianqian and Ye Jianying. That's the 10 great marshals. Definitely super important to Chinese military history, or at least to the modern one. And Nie Zhongzhen himself, I believe, became, like, politically important in the fallout. As you heard earlier, he died in 1991. I had just looked it up. He became pretty important, actually, in the fallout of sort of the Maoist period in the early 80s, when there was a power struggle between Deng Xiaoping and, you know, earlier on, the Gang of Four, you know, the Gang of Four, and then later... Hua Guofeng, you know, who originally sided with Deng Xiaoping and then was defeated by Deng Xiaoping. Yeah, definitely. As far as I remember, Nie Zhongzhen played a pretty important part in securing the PLA for Deng Xiaoping. And Deng Xiaoping would later, be appointed as the leader of the Central Military Commission, which is the body that oversees the PLA from the CCP side of things. So when you want to know who's the most important sort of political/military person in China, look to who is the chairman of the Central Military Commission. And right now, it's Xi Jinping. So if in the far future, like, for instance, Xi Jinping is not the, for some reason, he's not the general secretary of the party anymore, or he's not the president of the republic anymore, but he's still the leader of the Central Military Commission, he's still, you know, very, very important and basically the guy in charge, because, yeah, the Central Military Commission is really, really important because it commands the PLA. Anyway, digressions aside, recent appointments have also curiously seen a number of China Revival Society members, including He Zhongnan and Deng Wenyi, which is also something that I want to keep myself open to. Anyway, Yeah, the energy of the so-called Young Guard, the influence of the Young Guard is increasing. We need fresh ideas to win. Or their ideas are awfully drastic. Lin Biao joins the Guomindang. Yeah, definitely one Lin Biao. Here we go, Lin Biao. Irregulars officer. Mountaineer. Yeah, I think I want to start training Lin Biao because Deng Yangda is going to become a field marshal, right? From an event. Anyway, censorship in the arts. Oh, what a great time to go back towards the new culture movement. Anyway, a little leeway in expression is key to art. Yeah, for sure, I would say. Going back to the cultural side of things and the new culture movement. Low supplies. Oh, that's fine. That's only one division. So, as we said last episode, the new culture movement was this movement, which in it really had three main souls, that's the way I see it. I'm not an expert on the Guomingjun exiles. Another potential gigantic digression, but for sure, like the Guomingjun are... Yeah, we're gonna allow the Guomingjun refuge. The Guomingjun to be very... I think we want the radicals? Because it's gonna favor the RCA the least. And it's also gonna give us some radical socialism. Anyway, the Guomingjun, like, the events are just keep coming in, and I'm trying to, like, make sure that I make myself understood on a very wide range of topics. Anyway, the Guomingjun was this, literally the national army, it's called. It was the army of the Christian general, whose name right now escapes my brain because I'm senile. He was one of the warlords of the Northern Expedition. Fucking hell. I know the guy's name. Right now, my brain just... Christian warlord, China. Feng Yuxiang. I got it before I looked it up. I remembered before I looked it up. Feng Yuxiang. Guomingjun was his army. And Guomingjun in the Kaiserreich timeline is in refuge in the Shanxi clique along with Yan Xishan. Now, Yan Xishan and Feng Yuxiang were very similar as characters in that they were both absolute pieces of shit, like the worst of the worst in terms of like loyalty to their allies. Like the warlord period, when it comes to like the warlord debauchery, you know, the like guys smoking cigars with hookers and, you know, running drugs and all that, and having his soldiers commit horrible acts of violence upon the civilian population. The China's basest warlord, as many know, is Zhang Zongcheng from Shandong. But when it comes to like the, you know, plunging your knife in the back type of scumbag, like scumbag sort of ruthless, you know, warlords, it's definitely Feng Yuxiang and Yan Xishan. Yan Xishan, however, had the sort of peculiarity of really being very cautious and minding his own business a lot of the times, you know, staying at his mountain fortress in Shanxi. And Feng Yuxiang, however, was definitely a guy who aspired to national ambitions. And in the second Zhili-Fengtian War, when Feng Yuxiang was supposed to be part of the Zhili clique, Feng Yuxiang backstabbed Wu Peifu, who was basically fighting on the front lines in the south with the forces of Zhang Zuolin, the old marshal, the leader of the Fengtian clique, the king of Manchuria. and they were fighting the battle for China to the death, with hundreds of thousands of soldiers, mechanized to the brim. This is the early 1920s. They were overflowing with purchased leftovers from the Great War from the European powers. The Julie clique received hundreds of thousands of rifles from Italy, thousands of machine guns, French airplanes. The Feng Tian clique had a Japanese trained air force with domestically produced airplanes. These guys were really going all out, right? And there's Feng Yuxiang, who's supposed to be holding the north, right? And he's holding the north, and at some point he's like, you know what? There's no one in Beijing, and I have my army here, and I'm gonna go and then take over Beijing and install my own government over China, sort of allying with Zhang Zuolin. Then there's a bunch of shit, and he gets defeated, blah blah blah. It's super fucking complicated, but that's the kind of guy that Feng Yuxiang was. But when it comes to ideology, Feng Yuxiang was very progressive when it comes to warlords. Like when it comes to the average warlord, that is. Definitely not as Republican or as idealistic as Chiang Jiao-ming, who was like the real, Republican warlord. But not like Zhao Hengti, who was the Buddhist warlord as well. Feng Yuxiang, though, as I already said, I remembered him by his moniker, the Christian warlord, or the Christian general. All of these guys had nicknames, by the way. Zhang Zuolin was the old marshal, Wu Peifu was the Jade marshal, Zhang Xueliang, the son of Zhang Zuolin, was the young marshal. Fucking Zhao Hengti was the Buddhist warlord. Blah 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 blah. Zhang Congchang was the the dog meat general, etc etc etc. All of these guys. Yeah, the Long Yun was the king of Yunnan. Very, very nice. All these guys were characters. And basically, as I already said, he was the Christian warlord. Feng Yuxiang converted to Christianity, baptized his soldiers with fire hoses, and of course, the Americans loved them because of that, because, when it comes to Christianity, the Americans are weird. Anyway, he was a piece of shit, but he also had some... progressive Republican ideas, and he named his army the National Army because, he was, out of many warlords, probably the most, Republican, sincerely Republican out of them all, after Chen Jiao-ming. Anyway, the propaganda department extolled the defense of the peasants, emphasized the socialist revolution, stressed the nationalist cause. Note that we are not alone in this fight. I think we want to emphasize the peasants. I think we want to emphasize the peasants to get ourselves some balance of power towards the the Provisional Action Association. All right, we can now go ahead and take the deal with the warlords focus. Yeah, at some point I was supposed to talk about the New Culture movement as well, but basically it was this movement that was springing in the cultural field out of the political shocks of the late 1910s, basically having to deal with the relationship between China and the imperialist powers in the wake of the First World War, where the Chinese got sort of betrayed. Interesting. Got sort of betrayed by... the Versailles Conference, and they didn't get any of the German concessions back, and instead those were given to Japan along with the privileges that they had, and basically, as I said, the way I see the movement is that it had sort of three main directives that then later split. One that would end up being sort of conglomerated in the KMT, sort of pro-Western liberal currents, headed by Hu Shi, and the other two pertaining to much more radical sort of, one again tying itself more back towards the utopian mindset that was really most heavily exemplified by Li Dajiao, who makes some very interesting, like, experimental literature, basically. Yeah, and the third one being the sort of, they would call it socialist realist school of the new culture movement. This is all stuff that develops along the 1920s and like a fierce intellectual debate in the Beijing and Shanghai intellectual journals and stuff like that. And it's sort of being interlocked with the political struggle and the sort of rebuilding of the KMT in Guangzhou and the building of the CCP, you know, that kind of stuff. And the third school, again, today we would call it socialist realist, or, you know, political literature, is Chen Duxiu's school. Chen Duxiu was the main founder of the CCP after his participation in the New Culture movement, and also later the founder of sort of Chinese Trotskyism, interestingly enough, after the failure of the Shanghai Uprising. Anyways, we are about to be dealing with the warlords to our south. Thankfully for us, they're sort of killing each other, so their back is completely exposed to our invasion force. Let's check that they don't actually have any, like, guarantees going on. No, they're supporting other stuff, but no one is guaranteed here. And yeah, we can go down and murder them once we get to deal with the warlords. Deal with the Liang Guang clique submission, and hopefully also the Guangxi clique. I don't see the Guangxi clique, but hopefully that decision is going to be enabled too, because I would certainly love that. Anyways, yeah, we have our armies ready. They're pretty strong. All of them are not as trained as I would like them to be, but you go to war with the army you have, you know. And in the meantime, we're producing slowly, very slowly but surely. And yeah, hopefully we're gonna seize some military factories down south to make our military industry stronger. And, you know, at some point, we're gonna need to face 300,000 men of the Qing government, or, well, maybe hopefully these Japanese ultra-nationalists will soften them up a little first before we go in. Anyways, I want to thank y'all for watching. Hope you've enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Take care.